Alright, I guess it's time to see how far we've gone. Shut up chair, squeaky chair again. Meng Char 2C. We're up to the painting and initial weathering stage done. Okay. I'm going to go into this in a future video, but I use what I call a 7-step process, kind of like learning how to not drink, with my armour builds. I've experimented and tried with them, and we're at step 3, which is the painting, detail painting, and the initial weathering all done. I'll go over a few things of what I've done with this kit so far from the build, and yeah, explain what I've got planned for the next stages. Now, when you look at that objectively, you could almost say that that's finished with a little bit of dust. Now, what I've done, base coat is half Tamir XF49, which is khaki, and half olive drab, so it does have an olive drab style finish to it. That was straight put on, no modulation, no black basing, no other techniques, just putting it straight on. So that's the hull. With the turret, excuse my cough, I've got a bit of a flu. That's the top half, the top engine deck, all done, all painted. As you can see, it's been fairly heavily chipped on one or two areas, and I've base painted the exhaust, but they're nowhere near finished, and also the exhaust covers, they've got quite a lot of wear on it as well. Hope the camera's picking that up okay. Yeah, okay, so that's that bit done, and I'm quite proud of the turret, the main turret. I've been able to give that a quite a good metallic faded finish overall. I think you can see there, we're just starting to get there. Now I use a multi-layered approach to weathering. I tried from the first couple of times I did weathering, I tried, slap on a wash, do heaps of chipping, chuck on some dust, and she's done. I don't do that anymore. I take my time, and I really enjoy it, and I layer it, and I layer it, and I layer very subtle steps every time I do it. Maybe it's time to explain what I actually did. Red primer, hairspray, then a base coat. Then I chipped and scuffed and faded, and that's the important bit. You can probably almost see some faded areas here. What I'm trying to do is replicate what I call the initial stages of weathering of surface wear, and that's literally paint just getting worn off. Now this was an old vehicle in 1940, it was 20 years old, had a few paint jobs. I'm going to assume that they've stripped it back to its bare paint there. Okay, hope you can catch that okay. Now, after I did the chipping, I do a series of dry brush, pin wash, dry brush, and chipping again. You fill in the chips with dark iron with the buffable paint, so that gives it a slight metallic hint. I dry brushed using straight olive drab to give a bit of texture and a bit of depth to the rivets, because there's so many of them, and also the edges there. I then pin washed using enamel pin washers. Now there's no clear coats here, this is straight paint. I don't bother with future or any of that stuff, just straight over. But I use small amounts, that's the key here. You don't slather it on, you don't wash on, put these big clay washers on and that sort of nonsense. You very carefully apply them, and I apply them in different colours, different layers, and different areas. Now it sounds wonky, and it sounds a bit too much, and it's a bit of overkill. But it's not, it's just I'm trying to get a subtle finish. My aim with all my models is to make it look as much like the real thing, not like another model. Okay, we seem to in this hobby like to model models, not model the real thing. So subtlety is the name of the game here. So again, dry brushing using different layers of khaki, of olive drab, I even use a bit of life colour tan on different areas, especially on the top levels for the pre-fading effect, and pin washers, which I think were mainly these ones, the MIG panel line wash, which I use for aircraft as well. These enamel washes I think are the best products out there. Yeah, and that's how we went. So that's the initial stage done. Same with the top, and Same with the rest of the thing. Okay, you can see that the access door there is quite faded. That's an effect of the hairspray I was able to do. I was able to give that a completely different tone, different filter. The markings, the decals, I got the one, because this is number 91 Provence, I got the one from the 7 in the decal sheet and cut the lids off and worked on the same way the other side. I think that one's spaced a bit different, bit better. There's a slight bit of silvering still left in there, but I'll cover that up with some dust. And the only detail painting to do was the gun barrels, the inside of the main light there, and oh, there's a French tricolour there, and yeah, that's it. It's actually, there's a paint job goes, it's bloody simple. Don't have to worry about wheels because you can't see them. I mean, you can see them like that, but it's going to be just laid flat on the ground. Before we go on and I'll explain what I'm going to do next is let's have a look at the tracks. Now, I've tried a little experiment here and it kind of failed on me. These are far too light. They don't have enough sort of darkness to them. You can see it better on the other side. I tried using Vallejo's new metallic steel and it just gave too clean a look. What I've done instead is on this side I've added some dark earth pigments. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to respray these in Tamiya flat earth and some other dark colours and go again. I'm trying to get this effect here, this fairly dark brown with a slight tinge of rust effect in there with only a little bit of dust. I went too nuts on the dust. Tracks are still a tricky thing for me, so I like to experiment every time I build new tracks. I like to experiment. So that failed, that's good, I won't do that again. Okay, so the next stage, what's the next stage? The next stage is pigments. Okay, what we need to do is on these upper track runs is they need to be heavily pigmentized. Is that a word? There's a new word. And on the bottom of the hull here in these areas. What I'm trying to go for, the effect I'm trying to go for is a fair amount of dust and dirt build up from, you know, it's summer 1940. Excuse me. So there is going to be a fair bit of dust. It won't be very muddy, but there'll be quite a lot of dust and different types of dirt effects going on in there. And then also I'll do a little bit of horizontal dusting in these crevices around the turret rings and so forth. And then from there we'll use the same pigment on the pigment mix on the tracks after I respray them. Install the tracks so it's all integrated into one, and then we'll get into the final stages of weathering, which is using oils. Because we have to break up that big bloody canvas on the side there. Look at that, this looks like all olive drab. You know, I'm trying not to go to the high contrast eye popping, which I hate. I really, really do not like that style of modelling. Hats off if you like doing it, great. If you enjoy it, good on you. I don't like it. I like subtlety. Okay, so I could go nuts and fade the top part of these panels, and I could put heavy shadow here and what have you, but no, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to put in texture, okay, and if you look at reference photos, that's what it looks like. It's very So that's going to be the trick for the next stage, and then of course finishing the thing, which I said I'm going to do in a day. That didn't work, did it?